petition, Ms. Irwin's petition to establish paternity as well as set a parenting plan. However, a couple of days after we were here last time, I believe Ms. Coran filed an order of protection, at least the emergency was granted. As far as proceeding, I'm not sure if she's represented by counsel, but I would think that we would probably need to hear her proof first. That may dispense with the matter if the court decides to grant that order of protection.
Well, so the order of protection that was obtained was against your client, Mr. Irwin?
It was, Your Honor.
All right. Then, Ms. Curran, are you still in a position where you want to go forward on your petition for order of protection?
Yes, sir.
All right, then we'll hear that first. Have a seat. You have witnesses. You're representing yourself, correct?
Yes.
All right. You are the petitioner, so this is a hearing to determine whether or not there should or should not be an order of protection issued in this case. If you're going to testify, you need to come forward and let the clerk place you under oath. Come on. Come right around here.
You solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You said it, you just have a seat. Well, actually, we're going to have you come move over here, please. I don't know why that hasn't been moved back. All right, you are the petitioner in this case, so it's incumbent upon you to tell me what, if anything, you wish to do regarding this case. So,
Yes, sir.
why do you feel like you need an order of protection?
So it most of it goes back from the past when we were together. And the whole reason I left him when I was pregnant with my son, our son, there was a lot of abuse and drug use on his part. Every time I tried to leave, he would try to stop me. So eventually I just loaded up my van with my kids, left everything behind, pictures on the wall, my name in the bills, everything. Went up to the gas station, told him I was going to the gas station, but really I had plans to go somewhere else to stay with my daughter's aunt for a while until I could get back on my feet. So I told him I was going to the gas station and I just left. And I didn't call the cops and I didn't call for help or go to a women's abuse shelter or anything like that, because the position we was in, I was afraid. I was afraid that they would find that he was doing drugs and stuff and all the things that were going on, and me not knowing what I was going to do with all my kids, because I was pregnant with my 5th kid. Me not knowing what I was going to do, I was afraid that they would try to take my kids from me. So I just left, and I didn't think I'd ever have to deal with him again, because he didn't really seem like he was good with kids anyway. He abused my kids. So I have pictures and stuff I sent, and I wrote it down what had happened. That's the past though. Today he comes back in my life after about 3 years with his sister, telling me he's changed, that he's sober now. He got out of jail. He's a felon, a violent felon. But he did seem different, and he does seem different. But in my gut, I'm afraid. And so, but I did allow my son to go see him, because that his sister would be watching them, he would not be able to take my son anywhere alone. So I did allow that for a little while. But my son came home. He was always angry. He was always saying out of the way things. So after I did this order of protection, it took a couple times of me being able to leave him at school before he stopped freaking out, thinking I was going to leave him and never come back. And the lady asked him one time, the lady who was watching him, asked him, "Why do you think your mom's never coming back?"
We have an objection.
Sorry.
You cannot repeat what someone else has said.
Okay.
So you can only repeat what you yourself have discussed with the defendant.
Okay, well, he's also told me that his Aunt Shell told him that mommy was never coming back. You will never see your mommy again. The officer who even I had to call the police, even in the report, I also put that in the folder, also said, and I know I can't repeat, but that they did not feel comfortable bringing him back home to me. I had to pass DCS inspection, welfare checks, everything. They meaning him and his sister. So she abused my trust. So I just wanted to just stop the visits. And ever since I did that, Clay has been so much better. He is in school now. He's finally not crying when I leave. He knows I'm coming back for him. He's starting to go to the potty like he's supposed to. He's doing really good, and I would really like it to stay this way because, like I said, I've already tried to be civil, and it did not go well. And I know he probably hasn't abused him, but there's still in the back of my mind, like, I don't want that to happen to him, what happened to my other children.
So I want you to understand that anyone who brings a petition for an order of protection, I have to determine whether there is a present
Yes, sir.
a present danger of domestic abuse. And what I'm understanding from you is that the abuse you've talked about was back in 2019, roughly. That's what you set forth in your petition.
Yes.
And then he's come back into your life after a couple of years. What has happened recently that would cause you to fear that say that you are the victim of domestic violence? Just
the harassment between him and his sister.
And you say harassment because they're telling you he's a changed man and he wants to see his children?
No.
Okay.
The threats, trying to belittle me. It's kind of hard, but he was very manipulative and belittled me and made me feel like I had to do things when we were together. And I see the patterns coming back, just to the control. And his sister has the same problem. I don't know if you're going to do this or not, but I just feel like there's going to be another case in front of you if you do, because it's a matter of time before he does it. There's also the same sister who's here fighting for him today is the same sister that said all that stuff about him before. Just last year, whenever I told her that I didn't feel comfortable with him being alone with Clay.
All right, so harassment is your basic reason that you brought this petition?
I'm just trying to stop it. I should have got an order of protection. I understand I should have got one back then. I was afraid because I was in no position to get the police involved or anything because I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what I was doing. I just had to get away.
All right, is there anything else that you want to tell me about your reasons why you want to have an order of protection issued?
Not really, because ever since you granted this temporary order of protection, there's been no communication. Things have gotten better.
All right.
I'm just afraid it's going to go back.
Mr. Irwin's lawyer has an opportunity now to ask you questions about this petition. So,
okay,
Mr. Henson.
Thank you, Judge. And I apologize. From the south, I can go Curran or Curran. Which one is it?
Curran.
Curran. Okay, Ms. Curran, isn't it true that part of the reason that you agreed to start letting Mr. Irwin back into his life is because you agreed that he had battled his drug addiction and he was better?
Partly.
Okay. And
I agreed because I trusted Michelle, his sister, to be a supervisor of the visits.
what proof do you have, other than your word, what proof do you have that this man's a felon?
I have no proof, but you can look that up.
Now, isn't it true that when you when Mr. Irwin came back into the child's life, you accept his child support?
Yes, he's
And as a matter of
enforced
fact,
to pay child support.
He's current on his child support.
He's enforced to pay child support.
But he's paying child support.
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that you've also accepted money from his sister?
Yes, a couple times she's
And
offered
is
to
it
help.
true that you asked for money from his sister?
Yes, because she told me I could.
And isn't it true that this past Father's Day, you had no problem with Mr. Irwin seeing him on Father's Day?
Yes, because I tried. I did.
And isn't it true that you reached out to the family? I think this was sister, but you reached out and said, hey, you guys are back from vacation. Do you want to see Clay?
Mm-hmm. Little did I know they were manipulating me.
And isn't it true that this child is 3 years old?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that you also said that this child, you told them that this child is fascinated with superheroes, and
Yes.
that he on his own has acted out since he was 2, but he on his own has acted out in different ways before Mr. Irwin got involved. And you said the way you take care of this is you tell him that Batman wouldn't do what you're doing.
Not exactly. Clay was
Tell us what
a
that is.
sweetheart. I just had another baby recently. She's 4 months old now, and you know how toddlers act whenever there's another baby brought. They kind of, but he's actually doing really good with him now. So no, that's not true. You might reword that.
Okay. Isn't it true that Clay, one of the problems you had in his anger before Mr. Irwin really got involved, Clay would abuse cats?
No, sir. That happened after he saw his father.
And Clay has abused cats, and you've reached out to them. You have no clue what's going on, and that he lies.
That also happened after his father. I told her
That's
there's
true.
been a lot of changes ever since you guys have been in Clay's life.
And so you're really not scared of Mr. Irwin, though, are you?
Yeah, I am.
You are.
Yes, I don't even want to be in this situation.
Okay. Well, if you're scared of Mr. Irwin, and
It's
Judge,
easier
I'm
for me to
going
text
If
him.
I can ask the question,
Mhm.
please. Judge, and I'm going to this petition for the order of protection she filed. And we get past the narrative, and we get to where it says other order. Isn't it true? You said, if I have to let Brian see Clay, I ask supervised visits by myself or law enforcement.
Law enforcement would be preferred.
Actually,
Yes, that's true.
and you listed yourself first,
Mhm.
correct? So you're scared of this man, but you want to supervise the visits.
I wouldn't be alone.
You're scared. You did not write anybody else in here, did you?
It doesn't matter. I would not be
You
alone.
did not. Would you agree with me that when you and I left this courtroom last time,
You yelled at
And
my
we
face
thought-
like abuse, just like he does.
well, how did I do that, ma'am? I'd love to know that, because actually I'm going to call this man as a witness if I need to show you that you're wrong on that.
Oh, you could do that.
How did I do that? What did I yell?
And you also told me that it's
Whoa, whoa,
your
whoa,
job.
Whoa, you made an accusation in front of this judge about
You
it.
yelled right here in the middle of the courtroom, actually, whenever we went on break.
I yelled in the middle of.
You yelled at me.
What did I yell, and who are your witnesses for that?
He did witness that.
What did I yell? And who are your witnesses for that? There's courtroom security that day. Have you subpoenaed anybody for that?
I don't know if you've ever been the lawyer for an abuse case. I know that you have led a lot of people. I'm
Ma'am,
sorry.
I'm asking questions here.
I have not subpoenaed nobody, no.
Okay.
Because I'm letting
I'm
God
gonna
take
ask
care
you
of
for
this.
the
He's
third
stronger than you.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you for the third time. What did I yell? And who were your
Again,
witnesses?
I've been abused. So whenever a man raises his voice at me, I don't hear what they're saying.
Okay,
But
so-
I do know you yelled at me.
So once again, you said supervised visits by myself. Now let's go to the report that you filed with that with the Dixon Police Department. And it says, this was filed by Patrolman Colin Floyd, badge number 235. And your name is Micah?
Micah.
Okay.
Mhm.
According to this report, and this was July 13th, 2023, Micah stated that she had no problems communicating with Brian. Micah was advised how to obtain an order of protection on the scene. Micah was also advised the other thing, how to block all forms of communication between her and Michelle. So did you lie to Officer Floyd? And I apologize, I'm not from Dixon. Did you lie to Officer Floyd in that?
Not really, but they already had my son, and I don't like drama.
I'm asking you, okay, so explain how you, not really, now you're telling this judge, and you've told me under oath that you're scared of it. Yet, in your own petition, you want to supervise. What's true or false? That's the same thing that you told me. I've got no problem with Brian. I have a problem with his sister, and I would be happy for him to see him as long as I can supervise. Is that not true?
I do not want him to be alone with my
Is
son.
that not what you told me?
I have said that in the past, but like
Okay.
I said, I was being civil. I was trying. Now that they have not been in my son's life, he is doing so good. And
What's your proof of that?
What's my proof of that?
Yes.
Call the school, call DCS, because since they wanted to call DCS on me and try to say
Ma'am?
something that wasn't true,
Okay, that's fine, ma'am. Has,
you can call all those people. He's
Ma'am,
doing really good.
ma'am, have you subpoenaed any of those people here today? What proof do you have of
No.
that? So if we come down to this, what this comes down to is basically, you're fine as long, by the way, how many kids do you have? You brought that up.
That is not something that you, just like her. I have 6. Big deal. I love all my kids.
And out of those 6 children, how many different fathers?
It does not matter.
Judge, I'm going somewhere with this.
I have 6.
Okay.
I've been in several abusive relationships.
And out of those 6 children, those 6 fathers, how many fathers have primary custody of kids?
None of them.
Sure one of them doesn't?
Me, if you're talking about Braden, we co-parent my son.
How many of those?
I have him 1 week. He has him the other week. He's not a threat.
How many of those other fathers pay child support?
None of them.
So the only father that's paying child support is Mr. Irwin.
And you can cut that off if that's the problem. He can keep his money.
Ma'am, would you answer my question?
Yes, because it's enforced.
And isn't it true that you had no problem with this family? You have asked for money on a regular basis.
No.
You have asked them if they wanted to come to get Clay. You had no
Yes.
problem at all with this family until they had concerns about the child safety and they cut the money off.
No, the money is not cut off. It's enforced.
I'm talking about the extra money once they refuse to start giving you any extra money.
She literally gave me gas money to meet her 3 times. 3 times.
So you were so scared of all this abuse that you had no problem with Mr. Irvin and his sister taking Clay on trips.
No, they did not. Actually, the one time that Clay has gone anywhere outside of where they live that I know of is when I said, okay, under one condition, you can take my daughter with you. My oldest daughter came back and she told me a bunch of things. I had
Your
someone
oldest daughter?
watching
How old
him.
is your oldest daughter?
She's 11.
Is your oldest daughter here today?
She's not.
Okay. So if we go for the timeline of the events and incorporating what you have here, we were fine in spring, as long as it was under your control and you gave permission. We were fine in spring. We were fine in summer. We were fine when we were getting money. We were fine when taking trips. All of this was fine until Mr. Irwin files to be declared the legal father. DCS is called because his sister has some legitimate concerns, then suddenly, and the
Lies.
money cut off, and that's when it ended. That's when we had to have a problem. correct?
No.
And you are fined, according to what you swore to, under oath. You're fined as long as he visits at your house, and you told the officer in a report that he gave, that you gave, that you were fine with Brian. It was his sister. And that's July the 3rd.
Back in
And that's when
July.
everything stopped.
Back in July.
Ma'am?
Back in July. But when
Yeah.
my son came back that day, I was not fine. Because the things that my son told me is and then the way he reacted when I took him to the babysitter the last time I came to court, it was terrible. He's 3 and he's running down the street, "Mommy, don't leave me, Mommy, don't leave me." The babysitter said he was shaking.
Objection. Go ahead.
You
Go
can't
ahead.
testify about what someone else has told you.
Okay,
Did you bring the babysitter today?
no.
So what we have is testimony from you, or at least what you swore to under oath in this, what you told the lawyer told a police officer that if you lied to the police officer, you could be charged with a felony.
Mm-hmm.
We have those in your words saying Brian's fine as long as I supervise him, or problems with the sister. You testified to this judge that the stuff happened 2 years ago. All of these other things, but you got no proof.
Do you want to know what the lawyer told me whenever I asked for a
That's all
lawyer?
my questions.
You can't use 2 months back. A lot happens between now and then.
Anything else you want to tell me?
No.
All right, thank you. You may have a seat. Just sit at that table if you want.
Judge, I would,
Before we get any further, do you have any other witnesses that you intend to call? No, sir. All right, now you're good.
sorry about that, Judge. Judge, I would submit that she's not met the burden of proof. Her own words under oath in this order of protection she filed, and her testimony today, the events are 2 years ago. This was before, it was back when Mr. Irwin had a problem. She testified that yes, he did get better. She let him back into the life. She testified, she told the police officer that she had no problem with Mr. Irwin. It was simply his sister. She offered no proof of harassment. She's offered no witnesses to come forward. All we have is a testimony of someone when things didn't get going well for her, and didn't go the way she wanted them to, then she was no longer going to be in complete control. Decided to, in our opinion, abuse an order of protection. But we submit that she's not met the burden of proof that's required for an order of protection. We ask you to dismiss this order.
Ma'am, you can come to the podium if you want.
He said he would witness. He has been there through this whole thing. He's brought me here. He's witnessed a lot.
Who is he?
Barry Dill.
Okay, but what relation is he to you?
He's
or-
become like family to us. He's been in our life before Brian had showed up, and now even still.
Well, I asked you a moment ago if you had any other
I
witnesses.
know. I'm sorry. I just
Let
didn't
me
want to
just give you
speak.
some advice.
I'm sorry.
When the judge is talking, you just stay
Sorry.
quiet, okay? A moment ago, I asked if you had any other witnesses, and you indicated you did not. So you're now saying you have a witness that you want to call?
Yes, I didn't want to speak for him, but he said
All right.
it's fine.
What's his name?
Barry Dill.
Mr. Gill, come up.
Judge, I won't object to any witnesses put on, not just because she's asking after her proof closed. But had she told me and let on that she had a witness, I would have called for the rule. He sat in, he's heard what questions I've asked her.
No, there's nothing that says she can't call a witness. There's no rule that's been requested. The fact that you had a conversation with her and she indicated where the witnesses does not prohibit it from it.
Judge, she asked you,
Pardon?
you asked if she had any witnesses.
Well, I'm going to allow this witness to testify, so come up, Mr. Gill.
Thank you.
You stay at the podium, because he's your witness. You come
Sorry,
around
I
here.
don't know what I'm doing.
Sir, if you'll come around here, I'm gonna ask you to raise your right hand and be placed under oath.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Have a seat. He is your witness. You can ask him non-leading questions. You can ask him a question if you want to. He can't just get up here and testify and say whatever he wants. This is a question and answer format. You have to ask questions.
Okay. You can't ask him.
Pardon?
You can't ask him questions.
This is your case. You have to put him on and ask the questions you want.
Okay.
Those questions have to directly relate to your petition for order of protection and the basis for it that you're claiming that you have.
I don't know what to ask him.
Mr. Gill, step down.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Mr. Gill, you can step down. She doesn't have any
Sorry,
questions.
I don't even
for
know
you.
what to.
Should I just say what I've seen?
Nope. You're being called as her witness. You can't just get up and volunteer things.
Okay, what have you witnessed? Can I say that? For this case? I don't know.
Ask him a question. If you're able to ask him a question, then you can ask the question. Ask the question.
Okay. From the time that you've known us, when you first met Clay, how was his behavior? How did you see him? Because he had said that I had said that Clay was unruly before he came along. How was Clay when you first met him?
Gil, I want you to move that microphone, so that base of that microphone, you can move around if you need to.
All righty. Well, I met this family 2 weeks before Christmas this last year. And I've got to know them very well. The 6 little kids, love them like they're my own. Clay, he was a wild little fella, but he's really gotten good here in the last week or two. He's doing real good at school. He's calmed down so much, it's unbelievable. Now, as far as what I have seen and heard, pictures of her abuse where she was bruised up from supposedly his abuse. I can't blame her. I wouldn't want him around either.
What did you actually see?
She had pictures of where
You saw pictures from years before.
I've been married 47 years and I've never laid a hand on my wife. And I've got 3 kids. I've never whipped any of my kids except one time. One daughter lied to me one time about a report card. But anyway, all the kids are really good. Clay has really come along in the last few weeks. Now, as far as their relationship, she's told me that the sister at one time was scared of her brother being around the kids also.
You can't repeat what somebody's told you, even if it was her telling you.
Okay.
And you can only testify about what you've actually observed.
Right. Okay. Well, all I can tell you is that the little kid is doing a whole lot better than before. Now, I can say back at Christmas time, when I met him, I understood that he was coming to visit them and he was supposed to bring her some money and some diapers. He showed up to see the kid, from what I understood. Didn't bring her any money, didn't bring her any diapers. Of course I did. I stepped in and I helped her. I don't know, when a fella has a little child, it just seems like they need to take care of that child. Everybody in Dixon pretty much calls me Santa because I take care of all children. I like to pass out toys. I like to help people.
Have you, and you have any other questions to ask him?
I think that's all. I don't know.
All right.
Thank you.
If you have a seat at the table, Mr. Henson, you may cross-examine.
Just a couple, Judge. Your name again was?
Barry Deal.
Deal.
Deal, like, what a good deal.
Good Barry Deal. Okay, Barry. Mr. Deal. Okay, so you got to know this family before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Mr. Irwin didn't start coming around till after Christmas, correct? It was shortly after that, but it was after Christmas.
Correct.
Okay, and so when you met him, you met Clay, he was a wild little fella.
He was.
So he was a wild little fella before Mr. Irwin come around.
Well, I never really met Mr. Irwin until now.
But when you met him,
I've never
you just
met
told
him.
me that you met him before Christmas, before Mr. Irwin come around. And so therefore, little Clay was a wild little fella before Mr. Irwin come around, correct?
He was.
And these pictures of abuse, do you have any proof of that this abuse actually happened, or is this just abuse that Ms. Coran said, as far as Mr. Irwin to her?
Well, all I can do is look at a picture and hear the story and make sense to me.
So the answer is no, you don't have any proof.
Hey, if somebody took you out in the parking lot and beat you half to death, and I seen a picture of it, all I could say is, looks like somebody beat you half to death.
So no, you don't know that that was Mr. Irwin. You don't know that there was any abuse. You just have what she says.
That's right.
Okay.
And I believe.
And have you have any proof? Well, let's talk about this. You know the family really well. You said, how many residences Miss Corinne had since you got to know her?
2.
You ever been in her house?
I have.
Multiple times? How many times a week?
Once a week.
Once a week. So you don't know what happens the other 6 days a week in that house?
I pretty much see them every day.
You don't know what happens in that house, do you? My point is, you're a family friend. You're like family to them. But true or false, you're not in that house with those kids every single day, and you cannot testify that Clay, how he is consistently, other than when he's around you, correct?
When he's around me, I know.
But when he's not around you, you don't know, do you?
How would you?
Thank you, sir.
Would you know?
Thank you, sir. You may step down and have a seat in the courtroom.
Thank you, sir.
Or do you have any other witnesses?
Sorry.
Again, same motion, Judge, to dismiss for the same reason.
Ms. Curran, I want to explain to you the law in the state of Tennessee that provides for domestic abuse victims to apply for and obtain an ex parte order of protection. In order to obtain an order of protection, it is required that on an ex parte basis that there be proof of an immediate threat of injury or domestic violence being inflicted upon the petitioner. When this was originally brought before me to review some time ago, there did not appear, based on your petition, to be an immediate threat of harm or injury or domestic violence to be, that was set forth. It is instead talking about constant drama and harassment, lies and threats. And reading through your narrative, it basically is that you're dissatisfied with how you've been treated by him and some of his family. Clearly, the past being a situation where if in fact those events took place in the past, there's no excuse for that. I certainly have no respect for anyone who abuses a woman. But in the present situation, in order to justify the issuance of an order of protection in this case, it is necessary that I have to find that there is proof of domestic violence of an immediate nature that has occurred. And I simply do not find that the evidence in this case rises to the level of domestic abuse that is, or the threat of domestic abuse that would justify the imposition of an order of protection. You had listed all of your children, not just the child that you have with him, as being the recipients of that, and his right to see those children or to see that one child is the only thing that's before the court. He has no legal right to see the other children. So I am denying the order of protection that was sought, and there are other means of obtaining protection in the form of a restraining order that can be issued by a domestic relations court. In other words, a restraining order that would restrain people from doing certain things. It would restrain him from harassment, restrain people if there's found to be that need for it. So I want you to understand that just because an order of protection is denied does not mean that a court who hears your case regarding the custody of the child or the visitation aspect cannot put down orders that would have the same effect as an order of protection. In other words, it is an order of protection is an extraordinary remedy. This is the ordinary remedy that we have available in every divorce or child custody case. So based upon that, I'm denying your petition for an order of protection. But now we are going to have to move to the petition to establish residential time. Are you wanting to have a hearing on that today?
Well, Judge, prior to this, I did, but given what we feel has been a retaliatory action, and given what we feel there's proof out there of the condition of her home, and since we filed this action months ago, what I would ask the court today is for leave to amend my pleadings and set a temporary visitation schedule of every other weekend, which is what the parties were utilizing on their own for a while, with the exchange being at
Well, I'm not going
Sheriff's
to
Department.
just unilaterally establish an alternate weekend visitation with her opposition. If the two of you, I'm going to take an afternoon recess and you can talk with her and see whether or not you two can come to an agreement. Otherwise, we'll have to have a hearing. If you're going to amend your petition, if you want to have the hearing after you amend your petition, I'll be certainly glad to reset it to allow you to do that. Are you planning on hiring a lawyer?
I can't afford one, sorry.
The law does not permit me to appoint an attorney to represent you in a case where a civil nature is such as this. So you would be required to represent yourself. You talk to your client, find out what you want to do. Obviously, there can be an agreement that, if there's a sister that's creating a problem, a court can order that she stay out of the situation. This is between you and Mr. Irwin. And there'll be no harassment, no retaliatory actions by either party. And that would be my order if I have to have it. It just becomes a question of how often he gets to see the child. He has a right as a father to see this child. And whether the other men who have fathered the children with you see their children or pay child support is not really going to make much difference to me. It's going to be what is Mr. Irwin's situation and what is his right. And I'm going to take a recess before we go any further. You two can see what you can work out. We'll come back. If not, we'll have a hearing.
Judge, may I ask, and I've never done this before, but in light of some accusations that were made on her testimony, may I have at least one court officer in here to witness this?
You can discuss it right here in the courtroom as far as
Thank
I'm
you, Judge.
concerned.
Thank you, Judge.
We're going to take a recess at the moment. We'll stand at recess for 15 minutes.
All rise. This court's now in recess for 15 minutes.
I'm going out the hallway, so I'm not a witness. I don't want y'all calling me.
Why is the microphone over here instead of over here? It's not that big a deal. That's all right. We can leave it there if you need to. Just don't worry about it. It's gonna be a big deal, ordeal. It's just, I think the only reason it was there was we had a circuit docket call and they had an assistant sitting over there. Mr. Henson, what do you have to report?
Judge, I believe we've reached a temporary agreement. My client has agreed, and Mr. Corinne, that we've agreed my client will exercise visitation every other Sunday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. The meeting place will be at McDonald's in Dixon. My client will exercise that visitation in Dixon, that his sister will not be there. And it's going to be supervised by a Mr. Carmen Sharp and a Miss Callie Sharp. And I can give the court just a little bit of background as to those individuals. They're both from Lewis County. Carmen Sharp is my client's best friend. Carmen and Miss Callie have both had an interesting story. It was kind of a success story. They both had their battles about 8 or 10 years ago, up to about 6 years ago. They had their battles with drugs. They both overcame that. They are both gainfully employed, had been so, and have been sober for, I think it's now 4 years. I'm well aware of both of them. I watched Callie grow up, and I've known Carmen since he was probably about 16, and I actually performed the wedding for them this past first weekend in May. So they are people, I can assure the court that if they thought for 1 minute that my client was trying to abuse, or anyone was trying to abuse, or if they thought that he was
I'll approve that agreement, provided that we put in there that there'll be no harassment in the meantime, just that neither party will engage in any sort of harassing conduct, nor will either party take any retaliatory action towards the other outside of the proper legal course, meaning that if there's an issue that arises, you're going to have to file something here. You allege to be a victim of domestic abuse and you have no money to hire an attorney. There are agencies that legal aid services in Clarksville, for example, sometimes are available to help people. You need legal representation to protect your rights. But by the same token, he has every right to see his child, as long as he does so in a way that complying with the court's orders and is appropriate in every way. Obviously, Mr. Henson is going to represent his client, and it sounds like he's got 2 supervisors who are good people that are going to, look out for your child's best interest. We'll try this on the basis. If there's a problem, we'll deal with it. But right now, I think this is the best solution that we can have. And I interrupted you, Mr. Henson, but it does sound like you have prior knowledge of these folks and that they are appropriate for supervisors for this situation. Was there any other provision of the actual order that needed to be addressed?
Only thing I was going to offer the court, and this is just a good faith offer, but that this start on the 17th of September rather than this Sunday.
All right. I'd say we do it that way.
That's also is going to give me a chance to make sure if these 2 can't, we can find someone.
All right. And that'll be the order of the court. I'm glad you were able to work something out. Hopefully things will go smoothly. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.